Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to today's conversation. I'm Sara Jane, and I am delighted to be joined by my co-host, Enolia. You going to say hi, Enolia? Oh, can she hear me? Okay, we may have a problem. That's nothing unusual. And I am also delighted that we are joined by Denika Carothers. Oh boy, there goes Enolia. Are you back, Enolia? Okay, not sure what's going on. Technology issues as we are going to carry on without. As I said, I am delighted that Denika Carothers is joining us tonight. Denika, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me to have today's conversation with you.
And we're looking forward to it. And the topic of this conversation is transcending your pain into power. And oh boy, I think many of us can understand that. But there are an awful lot of people who think, hang on, how can you transcend pain into power? So the question that I would start, and obviously I may have to repeat this question so Enolia can also feed into it as well, is I think many people have a different understanding of the word pain. And so I think maybe this is a good place to start, and to hand this over to you, Denika, and just say, what do you mean or understand by the word pain?
One of the things that I know to be true, Sara Jane, is there are two things that we can be certain of in this lifetime. One is that we're all going to die. None of us are here to stay forever. And number two is that we are all going to experience pain on some level. Now, notice I said pain on some level. And pain for one person might be a completely different experience than pain for someone else. Pain is very individual. But one of the things that I've learned in my own life is that pain has to be processed. Pain cannot be ignored because you feel it. Now, a lot of people, they don't like to face pain. They don't know how to embrace pain. And so many people try to avoid it, numb or dumb down. But even if you take something to numb out the pain, to just remove the pain for a moment, that pain is going to come back. There is a root to everything that we experience in life. And choosing to connect to what the source of the pain is very key. Now, you can have physical pain, you can have mental pain, you can have emotional pain, you can have spiritual pain. I talk to a lot of women, who talk about church hurt, pain that they've experienced in the church. So you can experience pain on a spiritual level as well. So again, I don't think there's any way that we can truly define pain, because there's so many different connotations to it. But understanding that it is a part of this thing we call life is important in order for you to ever have an opportunity to transcend pain to power.
Yeah. Enolia, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you beautifully now. So
excellent. So basically, the question I asked, and I will come to you now that Denika has given us her answer, was pain. What do you understand by pain, or what's your, what do you feel your meaning of the word pain is? Because I think people really do have different understandings of that word pain.
So when I think about this word, the first thing that I realize is that pain is ever present. It's present in one form or another, one way or another in someone's life, and how we choose to deal with it, how we choose to address it, how we choose to confront it or move past the pain is key. And we see it in each other's behaviors. What causes a person not wanting to be present? And what do we use as an excuse not to be present? And what's behind not being present? And if you think about it, and this is not being stated in a judgmental way, in none whatsoever, but like people drink. People constantly drink. They drink to socialize, they drink. And that socialization and the drinking causes you not to be present. What is it in life that we want to be absent for such a great portion of it. Look at the habits that we may have as individuals that cause us not to want to be present, or numbs us out, or allows us to escape. We're not dealing with something. And whether that pain comes in relationship, whether that pain comes in the actual circumstance, whatever that pain is, and as Denika just so eloquently put it, and it comes in so many different levels, it's present, and we have to deal with it. We need to move through and work with our pain so that we can be present, and so that we can move through life.
Yeah. And pain does come, as you were saying, Denika, in so many different forms. You've got the physical pain. You have got the emotional pain. And there are times when physical pain can cause emotional pain. And I think there's also thinking about, when does pain start in your life? And the truth is, I believe we're all born with pain, because I'm sure that being born is far from being a painless experience.
Mm-hmm.
So we experience pain from almost the word go.
Yeah.
And the mother, when she is giving birth, but that pain, that can be, how many women, I have never had children, but how many women I would go through that again, because they end up with that beautiful baby.
Right. And you said physical pain creates emotional pain, but emotional pain also creates physical pain. And, you know, the unfortunate truth is this, Sara and Enolia, we have not been equipped to deal with pain or life. Let me say that again. We have not been equipped. We have not been taught how to deal with pain and life. We've been told to expect it. We understand to expect it. And a lot of times we experience it because we expect it, right? Because we are powerful creators. We are creating on so many different levels. But we have not been equipped to deal with pain and to deal with life. I was, speaking to a 19-year-old yesterday. His mother actually contacted me. And, she started running down all this list of issues that he has. And, they've done counseling, they've done therapy, and she wants to give him an opportunity to be better. And, so she gave me her rundown of him. And then when I spoke to him, the catalyst for what he's dealing with is what he sees in the home. He sees his parents fighting constantly. His father says nothing good about him. So, like I said earlier, we all experience, when we were talking offline, we all are contaminated with shit in our childhood. And when I say shit, I'm talking about shame, hurt, insecurities, and triggers. We deal with it. We face it all the time. But we have not been equipped. We have not been taught how to process all of these things that create the pain, that create the disconnect, like, Enolia was saying, that create the inability to be present because we haven't been equipped to deal with it.
We really haven't. But with so many, those issues start really young, at a time when even if you had somebody who understood, they couldn't explain it to you, because you are not of an age of being able to take that information and to actually understand it. I can go back to my own story. I was hospitalized before I was a year old. The pain of the accident that occurred, the scalding, so there was physical pain. And then there was the pain, the emotional damage that was caused by the fact that my parents could only come and see me once a week for an hour for 3 months. That is the pain of feeling unwanted, unloved, not good enough, unworthy. You come up with any word you like. That is how that leaves somebody when they have any type of experience like that. You can't explain to the child There are rules and regulations. Your parents are, and then there are circumstances out of their control. You cannot equip a child of that age. At what age are we starting to be able to really become equipped to understand? And that is different. Again, part of the conversation prior to coming on air. Again, that depends on the individual.
Yeah.
Our wiring, our ability to live life. But yes, there's many, many things that are said to us that don't help us to feel that we are worthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's a big part of it. And, as you talk about as children, I'm sure both of you can relate to this. How often as a child yourself, or even with your own children, everybody who's listening to this, when a child experiences pain, what's the first thing you say? Shh, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. Shh.
Yeah. Put on your big boy pants. You can do this. You don't have to cry. Absolutely.
Yeah. So again, we're not even equipped to deal with the pain. We're taught as children to ignore it, dumb it down, block it out. It's okay. Oh, it's okay. And so I have to go between, do I stop crying? But I really don't want to cry. I'm feeling a lot of pain right now. And so even the story that you talk about, Sara, and so how do you process something like that on the other side? Because as a child, you have feelings connected to that. You have thoughts connected to that. And this is one of the things that I really, wish parents would do better. Your children have feelings like you. Their feelings matter. They need an outlet to be able to express it. But it's difficult for you to give your child a space to do something that you yourself don't know how to do.
I can't even emphasize that even more so. We as adults don't know how to deal with pain. Matter of fact, we organize things such that you never have to deal with them. Look at organized sports. Look at football. Work through the pain. Get it done. You can do it. What are you, a sissy? You can't work through a little bit of pain? Come on. You know?
Yeah.
From football to tennis to soccer and everything. Work through it. You can get through it. Oh, you have to really go out. Are you really in pain? Can't you get back out there? Look how we handle, as an institution, pain.
Yeah.
Shame on all of us.
Yes.
Because we really have set up systematic framework to say, you will not only deal with the pain, you will grin and bear the pain. You will wear it as a badge of courage to show that you can deal with pain. And, well, I'm going to pause and then I'm going to come back to something. Go ahead.
But I love what you're saying on that, Enolia, because another thing that came to mind, no pain, no gain. Like,
yes.
Let me tell you something. When I go into the gym, I tell them straight plain, I need to be able to walk tomorrow. You are not.
Yes.
No, we're not doing that. But again, even from that perspective, and again, this is something we don't teach our children. I'm grateful that I learned this, before my children became old and I was able to deposit this in them. But again, we are not taught to speak up for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We're not taught. I grew up in a society where the children are seen and not heard. What you have to say doesn't matter. You could be abused, you sexually abused as a child, and your abusers say to you, don't tell anybody, or I'm going to hurt the people who you tell, or whatever, right? And so we lie to ourselves, and we lie to others, and it starts with that area of pain. And so we have to learn how to transcend from pain to power. And I got some thoughts on that, but we'll get to that later.
I think we've got to realize is that, especially when it comes to sort of muscular pain or something like that, it's, you know what, you've got pain because there's something that is not quite right. And it's something that is to be looked at. Now, that goes for emotional as well as physical. There is pain for a reason. And it's all very well with the physical pain, well, and I suppose with emotional pain, the physical pain, taking painkillers. Emotional pain, there are loads of drugs and things that they'll probably give you for that as well. It's not about trying to get rid of the pain. As you said, it's about, okay, what is the pain actually trying to tell us? Can we learn to listen to the pain?
Yeah.
On whatever level it is at.
Yeah.
Because if you have physical pain, don't take a painkiller, rub something in, put a patch on, whatever. Why is it hurting? What do you need to look at to support it to get better? Not just get a pain medication and I can get on with life. And how much damage are you doing by not letting yourself listen to that pain? And the same goes with the emotional stuff. Probably more so, actually, because it's going so much deeper. Because we bury it so deep. So, yeah, absolutely. If you listen to the pain and you work with the pain, you can find out its root. And that is where, for me, the power can lie.
Absolutely, getting to the root. And can we learn to start asking the question, what happened to you, rather than what is wrong with you?
Exactly. I wanna continue on a little bit of what Sara Jane said, and then I want to bring up emotional pain. But one of the things that we have been groomed to do when we're dealing with physical pain is that, again, wanting to numb out the pain immediately. You know, the human body is a beautiful thing. And it was actually constructed to always be in balance. And when something is not in balance, you feel pain. But instead of saying, okay, I'm feeling pain, something's not in balance. Okay, why am I feeling that pain? Where is it? And what is it that might be out of balance? This is a signal to me to stop, slow down, acknowledge my body, figure out, and bring it back in balance. But what do? We take chemicals to tell us to numb out the signals to us to tell us that it's in balance. We don't even want to acknowledge that our body is out of balance. And then what happens is that if you numb the signals long enough, then the actual dis-ease, the disease manifests because you've been ignoring the signals that tried to tell you that it was out of balance in the first place. And then what happens when we go to a doctor? You feel dis-ease where? Well, let's numb that out versus let's get to the bottom of what's out of balance that your body has been trying to signal and indicate to you in the first place with the pain. And it's just, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, we've
really
been taught to treat symptoms. We've been taught to treat symptoms rather than heal the problem. Let me say that again. We've been taught to treat symptoms rather than heal the problem. So when they talk about mental health, they're just really talking about something that's wrong. I wish we would start talking about mental and emotional wellness, which is what I do. Let's heal. Let's stop treating symptoms. Let's get to the root of the problem so that we can heal it. And like you said, Enolia, piggybacking off of Sara Jane, pain is one of our greatest teachers. It is an indicator that something is out of alignment with the divine perfection that we were all created to be. And so instead of wondering what's wrong, what's happening? What's happening with my body right now? What's happening with my mind right now? What's happening with my emotions? You cannot tap into that unless, like Enolia was talking about earlier, you choose to be present. And being present right now is the only thing that really exists. Yesterday is long gone. Tomorrow isn't here yet. The only thing that matters, the only thing that you can control, the only thing that you can do something about is right now. In this right now moment, pain is one of our greatest teachers.
Absolutely. And I want to talk a little bit about emotional pain, because we don't even know how to deal with emotional pain when it's present, it's leading our lives, and we know where it came from. And I'm going to make this akin to something that happened to me in my childhood, which is I remember going to bed. My mother's a nurse, and she worked midnight to 7 a.m. shift. And my dad used to stay home with me. And I woke up at like 3 in the morning, and I peeked out of my room because I heard the television was so loud, and every single light was on in the house. And I'm like, I got out in my pajamas at 12 years old. Dad, what are you doing? Why is every light on in the house? And I could see it in his face. He was trying to decide whether I was old enough to tell or not. And so he told me. And he told me about how, because my father served in World War II. They had me very late in life. And he was telling me how his mind kept going back to the moments in the actual fight when he was storming Normandy, okay? And when he was fighting and holding on to a buddy trying to save him, and looking back and realizing the buddy wasn't there, just the body part, you know, and all of the trauma that he had suffered. And how that era was just dispelled. They were let go, they were discharged, sent home, go back to normal life. And he had no semblance of what normal was. He stayed up. He was like, nights were the worst for him. Nights were the worst for him, because to sleep and to relive that trauma over and over again. Now we know it as PTSD. Okay, and now we know some semblance of treating it. But my father's way of dealing with not being present was to drink, to numb himself from that pain of what he had went through from the trauma, to make it day by day. And we see this all the time.
Absolutely.
All the time.
And you know, like breaking things down, because I really believe in simplicity. I think one of the issues with the world nowadays is too complicated, right? And we got the alphabet for everything: A, B, C, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T. You know, so you talk about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Stress syndrome. Mm-hmm.
So you're out of order based on the stress that is as a result of the trauma, and it's always on the other side of what happened, right? But we're not taught how to bring things back into order again. You know, that story that you told, and it's crazy because I could see it as you were saying it. So if I could see it, not having experienced it, I can only imagine what your father was dealing with that. But again, what I heard you say is he was not even given an outlet to process this experience. He was just expected to go back into normal. Now, first of all, what the hell is normal? I was
normal.
Break that down, right? But how do you go back to what you were? How do you go back to what you were after an experience that completely traumatized you? Because that's mental trauma, that's emotional trauma, and that's physical trauma. And that's spiritual trauma that your father experienced, right? Because a question on the other side of that would be, why did this happen? Why was I involved? Why did I have to experience this, right? And those questions are important to ask. The problem is, the challenge is, the reason why a lot of people can't transcend from the pain to the power, because they are not given an outlet to work that out. Because very few people want to talk about something like that with somebody. Let's just be honest, right? Like, how many people would you want to speak to about that? Because unless you've experienced something like that, you can't really relate to what he's feeling. But this is the problem that we have in our world today. Nobody is willing to hear people anymore. Yeah, there's a lot of listening that's happening, but listening and hearing are two
different things. Absolutely. And I have to say that when I was thinking about the childhood, we talk about the childhood shit, right? As you said it. So what did I learn from that scenario? I learned that my father had trauma. My father used alcohol to numb, and I watched him self-destruct over a period of years until that alcohol took him. So that was my acclimation to dealing with pain.
And can I ask you a question? How did that experience affect you in your life, seeing how pain was dealt with? Did you choose not to have anything to do with alcohol as a result of that, or did you use alcohol in the same way?
Oh, I choose not to have anything to do with alcohol. I went to the other extreme. I went to the other extreme of, like, I could have a glass of wine, but 2 glasses of wine in a week is like, no, 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 absolutely not. Anything that would have a trend, a pattern, or anything like that, it was like, absolutely not. I could do it once in a blue moon. And then I found myself in major social situations, and I started noticing that people don't know how to engage each other until they're numb. And I'm like, this is insane. You start noticing the patterns of others all around you, and realizing that there's no self-control. There's no self-discipline. It's like, oh, it's time. It's time. We're out of work. Let's go to happy hour. Oh, it's time to celebrate. Let's go have a drink. Oh, someone's getting married. Let's go toast them. Everything pertained to this particular thing. And I was like, wow. Wow. This is how people work. They don't transcend their pain. They numb it. And then they reach halfway through life and go, how did I get here? What did I do? What was so wrong? And for me, I came to a precipice in my life where I had my own pain. And I was like, something's going to change here. I am going to address this. And it is not going to be through numbing it. It's going to be through facing it and figuring out my steps. So you have, your SHINT, and I have my 7 steps that I use to transcend. We all figured out our way through our experiences. And what beautiful experiences they are to learn how to transcend, address, look yourself in the mirror, accept the fact that you have this pain, understand that it is a part of you, but it does not have to consume you. It does not have to lead your life. And figuring out how it's not going to.
I think for me, the transcending of the pain, the understanding, for me, understanding my story, and it was definitely brought about by a sort of a catalyst, because the insecurities I felt from what happened when I was so young. I wouldn't say boo to a goose. I was so painfully shy because I never expected people to accept me. And the broken jaw, which was broken thanks to the dentist extracting a wisdom tooth, left me with 6 months of pain and sleepless nights. Physical pain, but a physical pain with the sleepless nights that so sapped my energy that what I had to do was let go of things in my life. And that included people pleasing, because I was a great people pleaser. And a lot of people are people pleasers because we don't know how to be any different. Marriage went. I then was told we were getting made redundant. So even the job I was in went. People's reaction would be, but your whole life fell apart. Actually, no. At that point, I realized my life was falling together because I was letting go of what really wasn't meant to be there in my life. And so sometimes what appears to be total disruption can actually be an amazing gift. And it is up to us, and don't ask me why I understood this. I don't know. I didn't understand the 6 months of pain and sleepless nights till I came out of the other end. And then obviously the marriage broke down, and So it didn't happen in 5 minutes, it did happen over a period of time. Although when I walked out of my marriage, I then kept told I was going to get made redundant in several months' time. But that happened quite quickly on top of each other. But it was just suddenly, actually, I'm not running away from my life. I'm taking that step into my future because I've now decided to take control. And so the pain and the sleepless nights was the gift that gave me that start. That then what can I do to help me? Because I knew there was so much more healing that had to happen. But it was taking the steps of awakening that of what can I do to help me?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, yes, you can receive the support from others, but the only person who could heal my inner child was me. And the gifts that I now bring are how I supported myself. And I'm sure the same goes with both of you and with so many others. Our awareness of self is what helps us to support others to that awareness and that power of self.
And I want to piggyback off of what you just said, Sara Jane, and also something Enolia said, 2 points of power. Enolia said, facing it. I say it like this: you got to face it to erase it. You got to own it to disown it. And you said, Sara Jane, I decided to take control. I tell my clients all the time, it is not hard. It's a decision. Because if you say it's hard, you're deciding that your experience is going to be struggle and hardship. It is not hard. The hardest part is making a decision. I remember 2 years ago, I was experiencing severe pain in my knees. I had fallen down the stairs about 4 years ago, and I was experiencing severe pain in my knees. But I decided I'm not going to be old and decrepit, and I decided that having painful knees and not being able to run around and be sprightly as a 50-something-year-old was not an option. And what I did is I tapped into self. Because the answer for everything is within you, the individual. And I tapped into self. I literally had this conversation with my body. Okay, body, this pain is not an option. So what do you need me to do to support us having healthy, pain-free knees? And as things came to me, one of the first things that came was stretching. I'm a big proponent of stretching. I stretch every day. I now run up and down stairs. I now do squats all the way with my buttocks to the ground. I no longer have pain in my knees, but it's because I made a decision that experiencing this pain for the rest of my life was not an option. And you said very powerfully, Sara Jane, I decided to take control. And that is the way that you transcend pain. I don't care what pain it is. Into power. You decide what you want to experience, and then you decide to do whatever is necessary to be able to experience that.
And something that you're saying emphatically without saying it is the self-discipline and the consistency and the sustainability. And those are powerful tools that we are capable. And the acceptance that I have this pain. We like to ignore pain. I mean, we do. We like to ignore pain so that we don't have to address it. That's why we numb it out. Right? Oh, I don't want to take the full brunt of the pain because then I'd have to deal with it. And I don't deal with pain very well. I mean, I hear that from giving birth to, I can't deal with pain. That's why I have to take pills. And what you just talked about, Denika, was the fact that you said, I'm going to have a conversation with the pain in my knees. Just like that. That's what we have to do. Have the conversation with our bodies. accept that our body is notifying us and say, okay, something's not balanced right with my knees. What do I need to do? Go inward. What is it that I need to accomplish to move through the story of pain?
Have the conversation with your mind, with your emotions, with your soul, with yourself. And you talk to Enolia, have no self-discipline, have no self-control. When you have no self-discipline and no self-control, what is really happening is all of the control is outside of you. All of the discipline is outside of you. So Sara Jane and I were talking prior to coming on. So many people make you feel bad because you are selfish, or because you are self-centered, or because you are self-absorbed. I owe it to myself to be self-centered. I owe it to myself to be self-absorbed. Because if I don't know what the hell is going on with me, that's my book, by the way, Who in the Hell Do You Think You Are? If I don't know what the hell is going on with me, how can anybody else help me? Do you realize when you go to a doctor, in order for a doctor to help you, you have to know what's going on to be able to communicate that to him?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just saying IJS.
And sometimes things are so much simpler than we actually allow ourselves to realize. You have a headache. Are you going to take a pill, or are you going to drink some water? Because in the majority of cases, all you need to do is
drink some water.
A headache is dehydration in so many cases. Yep. And that's all your body is doing. It is learning to listen. Knees. I love it. When you talk about knees, it's just like, what were you failing to move on from? What was your next step that you were not taking?
Come on, Sara Jane, tell the people.
Your body knows how to tell you. Neck, shoulders. Why are you taking on other people's problems? You've probably got enough of your own. Let theirs all go. That's their stuff. You listen to your body. It does know how to speak to you. You have to learn to understand it. I remember years ago, I was doing a mind, body, spirit fair, and this young lady was walking around on crutches, and you could see she got a great big bandage around her knee. And I just looked at her and I said, what are you not moving on from? And she looked at me and she said, how did you know? I don't think I said that was the first words I said to her. I'd never seen it before. And I just said, you got a knee problem. And she said, you are so right. Carry on. Carry on, Enolia.
So what you're saying is so true. And I want to introduce the fact that it's not even just self-discipline. Let's go to our first basic thing, is our thought process and our state of mind in terms of addressing pain. Because the bottom line is that how you think and how you address and approach the pain from a thought process point of view is going to set the foundation that is either going to be indicative of healing and moving through the pain and controlling the pain, or doing what it takes to rid yourself, to bring yourself back in balance of the pain, or to go down this road of, I can't cope, I can't resolve, I can't face, I can't. And this attitude of what we think we are is what we are. So if you, in your example, Denika, had said, I can't resolve the pain in my knees. Oh my God, I'm going to have terrible knees the whole time. Oh, it's too hard for me to do. Oh, give me something that just numbs it. That's exactly the road that we would travel. We set the tone for ourselves. Anything that we've ever wanted to overcome does not accept the label by which we are given. And I'll say that again. Anything that we've wanted to overcome does not accept the label that we were given, because we defy those labels. We're able to step and transcend those labels. If if I had accepted the fact, you know, I had a lymphatic problem, and the doctor was like, "Oh, you have a lump in your neck. Oh, I can cut that out for you." I was like, "Why would you want to cut it out for me when you haven't even told me what it is?" One, two, you know, what is it indicative of? What's going on with my body? Is this a symptom, or is this the whole thing? You know, you haven't told me any information, and you said that to me within 5 minutes. No, not acceptable. Not acceptable for you to stay with me for 5 minutes and tell me that you'd be ready to cut into my neck. So I ended up going to a acupuncturist who had a 20-page intake sheet and who sat with me for 2 hours to find out my background and my history. And she was an MD along with the acupuncturist, who basically told me, your lymphatic system is shutting down. So had I just gone and reacted to one thing, I wouldn't have addressed the issue. Again, what is your body saying? And then the reason I'm bringing this up is that, you know, she told me, oh, it'll be, you know, very painful. Maybe in a couple of years, you'll be able to resolve the problem. I was like, I'm going on a walk to Africa in 7 months. And she goes, oh, no, you're not. I said, oh, yes, I am. And she said, oh, no, you're not. I said, oh, yes, I am. She says, you don't realize how sad, you don't realize how sick you are. I said, I realize how sick I am. I'm telling you, I'm going. So she was like, well, you know, taken aback, and I said, I'll make you a deal. In 6 months, I'll evaluate where I am. And if I've resolved the issue enough, I'm going. And so the self-discipline of eating, what did my body need in order for me to come back into balance? What did it need? It needed me to get rid of processed food, get rid of the dairy, and eat food, put food in my food. It needed nutrients to strengthen my adrenals, my liver, and my lymphatic system. So the additional nutrients that needed to be taken in, listen to me, taken in. And then I went to an acupuncturist who was able to vacuum and work with my lymphatic system until it was all back in balance. 6 months later, I'm sitting in front of that same doctor, and I say to her, so I haven't been able to ask, but I'm going to ask, what do you think? Do you think I can, you know, take this trip? What do you think? She's like, if anybody would have told me that you could do what you did, I would have said you're lying. But in 6 months, I was at like 70 to 75%. She was like, go on your walk. Because I walked 100 miles across Africa, 100 miles across Kenya. And so it wasn't that I was just going to play. I was going, and I was going to get into that serious physical activity. And she was saying I was inflamed. One half of my body was inflamed on all one side, and the inflammation was all internal, and it was just starting to project externally because I had so much. And I was able to resolve that within 75%. Go on the walk, came back, finished up with her. You know, I had a projectile almost the size of a golf ball sticking out of the side of my neck, and it's no longer there. And so I cannot emphasize the pain I was feeling every time I took a step, the pain I was feeling on the left side of my body, and the attitude I had to. She told me I was just going to, you know, deal with the pain, and, you know, I was going to sit at home. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not. And the power of that thought process of just basically not accepting the label of I'm going to be an invalid of such type for a period of time, for 2 years. Oh, heck no, I'm not. What do I have to do? Let me step it up. So that attitude means everything. I've lived it.
That's the power of intention, man. That's what I'm talking about right there. It's like you made a decision, and how you transcend from pain to power is to have a purpose. You had a purpose, and you had a mission, Enolia. You was walking them 100 miles across Africa, and rather than sitting down in victim mode, because we are fearfully and wonderfully made. We are made in the likeness and image of the Creator, which means that we create, which means that the power is within you. That source is within you, not outside of you. Stop looking
Yes.
at eternal God. There is no God outside of you. There is no divine outside of you. You are the divine. You are the divine extension of the divine. You have the power to speak those things that be not as though they are. You spoke healing. You spoke health. You spoke wellness, as I did with my knees. And when you say you can't, that's a decision. What you're doing when you say can't, you are choosing a negative thought. When you say you can't,
Yes.
that is a decision. But you can choose to decide that you can have, be, do whatever it is that you desire. And let me tell you something. If you make a decision not to allow somebody else to tell you who you are and what you can do and what you cannot
Yes.
do, there is nothing that you cannot accomplish in this lifetime. There's nothing that you cannot be. There's nothing that you cannot do. And there's nothing that you cannot have. But let me tell you this. You have to be willing to take responsibility. Let me say that again. You have to be willing to take responsibility for your own life, for your own destiny, for your own choices. And that is the reason, ladies, why a lot of people do not choose something different, because they don't want to be responsible or accountable for the choices that they make. Well, you can't have excuses and results. You either gonna have excuses or you gonna have results. Choose this day and make a decision.
And Jackie, who's been on here, and I know she won't mind me saying, quite a few years ago now, she was told that with bones and whatever, she'd be in a wheelchair within 5 years. Every time she tells that story, she still says 5 years. She has never brought it in to 4, 3, 2, 1. And she is still well over 5 years, not in a wheelchair. She is the one that is taking control. She knows there are issues. Yes, there are things that she has to do that she prefers not to do. But she is determined that she's not going to be in a wheelchair any sooner than she's got to be. 5 years, she still sells it as 5 years. And it's that mental attitude that makes the difference. If you're prepared to give in to it, don't expect to have brilliant outcomes. If your reaction, like Enolia's, like Jackie's, like yours, is, do you know what? Nah, I'm not going to be dictated to by this. We can all do it. You know, and I said, right, this is not my life anymore. My life's going to change. My life's changed. Yeah. But we all have, and it's amazing when you make that decision to take that pain and turn it into the power that is you. The universe brings amazing aspects to you that it wouldn't bring to you until you make that decision and make not just make the decision, but take the actions. You have to take the actions. It's all very well me turning around and saying, oh, I'm not going to be a people pleaser anymore, but then sitting where I was and putting up with life the way it had been. And it was just like, I really can't do this. Yeah. You know, if you don't make the actions, right, marriage is over. Means if I've got to means I've got to move out, I've got to move out, I've got to find whatever. It all worked. But you can go into that fear mode of, oh, but if I do this, what's going to happen? My reaction when I sort of said, right, the marriage is over, I had no idea where I'd be sleeping that night.
Yeah. And you have to be willing to reframe your story. You know, you have to be willing to reframe the story. We all have a story. We all have a story. And your story can either be crucifixion or your story can be glory. It's your story. You get to tell your story the way that you want to tell your story. You get to put the beginning, the middle, and the end. Well, maybe not the beginning, right? Because a lot of our beginning, we don't have any choice over it. But you do get to put the middle and you do get to put the end, and this is something that I have mastered with my clients, teaching them how to reframe the story, because you can stay stuck in your story, or you can turn that story upside down, and you can use that as a stage to encourage and to empower other people. But if you feel like a victim and you keep talking the victim story, well, you're going to have a victim experience every time. You can turn that victim story upside down. You can use it as a stage and choose to be victorious. Everything is decision and choice. And like Sara Jane said, being willing to make the effort, to take the action, to do the steps. Enolia was willing to do the steps. I was willing to do the steps. Let me tell you something. When I started stretching, when I tell you pain, that was some pain out of this world. But I was willing to push through that pain because I was focused on the other side of that pain. I refused to be stuck in the pain. I chose, like you said, mindset. I chose to think about the other side of the pain. And there's always the other side. There's the other side to everything. And you can transcend from pain to power if you are willing to reframe your story, if you are willing to make a different decision, if you are willing to make a different choice, and if you are willing to do something different.
Absolutely. And I really want to emphasize the fact that it's a decision. Again, and I know this is a repeat, but we have to emphasize it again and again and again. Because to transcend pain, sometimes you have to go through more pain to get to the other side. Okay? So I'm going to say that again.
Crisis.
To transcend the pain, sometimes you have to endure more pain, more excruciating pain to get to the other side. And then the other piece of this is that just as much as we can make a decision to transcend pain, it's always easier to say, well, it's too hard. I don't want to do it. I can't do it. And, I'm talking about this because people do this. Why is it the human condition can hear something that says, if you don't do this, you will die. And then you do it for a little while and you go, oh, it's too hard. I guess I'm just going to die. And then they just accept that. That's a decision too. And you know what? There's no judgment here, but recognize the fact that that's a decision also.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that additional pain is definitely healing crisis.
So I'm looking at the time. We're coming up on an hour, and you know that we could go on and on and on and on about this. I love this topic. Oh, Denika has been phenomenal. So as a last question, I would ask, what tips do you have for those who are listening to us right now in terms of when it comes to dealing with their pain and moving to the other side?
We are on instant replay. Make a decision.
Yes.
Make a decision on what you want to have, and then choose to believe that you can have it. I say it like this: if you desire it, you deserve it. And if you deserve it, that means that you can have it. But again, it starts with a decision. Decide what you want, and then choose to make the steps to get there. And then show up for yourself by taking action, so that you could run up and down stairs, so that you could walk 100 miles across Africa, so that you could teach people how to heal themselves and be a healer, or whatever it is that you want. And I'm talking about our stories here, right? There is nothing that you cannot be, do, or have if you make a decision.
And I would say, be prepared to listen to yourself, to become aware of your own story. It's not about revisiting it. It's not about continuing to live it. It's about awareness of it. And what can it support you with and teach you and help you realize that there is so much more to life than the story you've been living. Just because it started the way it has doesn't mean that the middle and the end can't be totally different. And then that goes back to exactly what Denika's just said. It is about making a decision. That listen to yourself. Be aware of your story. Your story is a gift to you. And, you know, we've shared our stories here in this program, or some of aspects of our stories. And because we're using them as the gift they were to us, to hopefully support them as a gift for you too. That is what our story is. It's a gift. But we don't have to keep living it where it is the pain.
And how would you answer, Enolia? How would you answer your own question, Love Bug?
I'm going to tell you what I answered. I went inside, listened to the divine. My connection of sitting still, because we always want to do. And there's moments that you need to sit still, connect with the divine, and let the divine lead you. I said, divine, please, great spirit, please tell me what's next. How do I address this? I got holistic. I knew that it wasn't going to be a modern doctor. I knew it had to be someone who had a holistic approach. I listened to my inner compass as the best way to approach it. And you're right, I made a decision that I was going to have the self-discipline to accomplish it. And then I sought the help that I needed. But I sought the help that I needed, having already made the decision that I was going to do the work. And that's the number one thing I would say is make the decision to do the work, have that conversation with God, and then do the work.
Have the conversation with the divine and trust the leading, right? Absolutely.
Yes, that's right. So we're all counselors, but Denika, how can our audience get in contact with you?
Well, you can reach me on my website, www.Denika Carothers, that's DenikaCarothers.com. I'm also on Facebook, Denika Carothers. I'm on Instagram, Denika Carothers, and I'm on YouTube, Denika Carothers.
Excellent.
And we put your website under I'll put the website under the video on YouTube. So if that's where you're watching this, go there. And it's also on the Gift Healing TV website under today's conversation. There's all the bios of our guests, including Denika, and we put the website addresses underneath there as well. So please, there's plenty of places to go and find her.
Thank you.
Absolutely, and post it on my website also, and on my YouTube with your website, everything, all of your information, all of your social media. Denika, I cannot thank you enough for bringing your wisdom here and sharing with us and having such a powerful conversation. We absolutely love having you here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Sara Jane, thank you for your beautiful, beautiful stories and your wisdom also. And I'm Enolia Foti, and this has been today's conversation. And on October 8th, you can join us with Zanetta Wooden, and we're going to be discussing Unleashing the Power of Forgiveness. And Danette is an author who's written a book about unleashing the power of forgiveness, so it'll be proven to be a phenomenal conversation as we just had tonight. And that will be October 8th at 5 p.m. Africa time. And I believe that that's 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in 12. So that's 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 3 hours prior to that is 9. So 9, 10, 11, 12, 9 a.m. Pacific time. And that's also 5 p.m. In London, in UK. So join us for today's conversation on October 8th at that time. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And we hope that you have a beautiful, beautiful rest of day or evening, wherever you are.
Thank you. Good night, folks.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.